Welcome to the Wiser Wealth Management Roundtable, where we believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith. Guiding you to financial freedom are my co-hosts, Brad Lyons and Matthews Barnett. Hey, guys.
Hey, Casey. How's it going?
Today, we have a special guest with us, Tom Townsend from the Townsend Realty Group with Keller Williams. Hello, Tom.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Today's topic is real estate. So we're going to talk about the real estate nationally, locally, maybe get into a little bit about investment property strategies. So Tom, why don't you start us off with what is happening in real estate right now? I look out, I drive to work, I see a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house near the square here in Marietta, which used to be 20 years ago, 40 grand, which is now going for 400 grand, and it still has to be torn down.
Yeah, isn't that a beautiful thing? Huh? Isn't that awesome?
I guess that's good. Maybe if you already own the house.
No, it's a great thing. Everybody's making money on these things. No, it's I mean, right now, if we talk about national, most people hear the national news about real estate and where we're at, which is important. It's nice. However, real estate is local. So, I think it's more important that we talk local real estate and what is happening. And, if we look at the local numbers right now, we can look at it two different ways. I always look at real estate from this point backwards. And if we do that, you can see that it's been a very strong real estate market. A lot of demand, very little inventory, and there's a lot of factors involved with why there's not much inventory on the market. We've got historical low rates. Atlanta is a phenomenal market center. We've got a lot of demand here and a lot of growth, which is driving that demand. So backwards looking, the real estate market has been really strong up to this point. Forward looking, we've got some threats. We've got some things that we've got to take a look at. And, the economy, we got some situations that we've never ventured before. We've never been down this road before. So there's a lot of question marks that we have to answer, a lot of questions we have to answer, and a lot of things that we have to monitor and keep on monitoring.
What constitutes inventory? Because, when you go to like realtor.com and you look at all the homes that are available at any price point, you zoom out over Georgia or any particular state, there's a lot of homes for sale. I mean, you see a lot of dots, right? Is it those dots are just maybe not what the market is looking for all of them?
Yeah.
Some of it's raw land. Not everybody wants to buy raw land and build, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it depends on what system you're using to actually search.
True. That's true.
There's a rule in real estate. If a house is not, we're talking about residential homes here, not vacant land.
Yeah.
It's usually condition or a price issue. It's one of those two things. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
So we're either priced wrong or there's something wrong that the market is not desiring on that particular home. And it's usually condition.
Yeah.
It's either outdated or it needs too much work. And people don't have the money to buy a home and then be able to invest in
$100,000,
Yeah,
$200,000
exactly.
into it. Yeah,
exactly.
In our local area, most of our listeners are local. What would you say is a hot home right now? If you have this home, you would sell it no problem.
Yeah. Well, let's start with price point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start with location because it all starts with location. In this particular area, we're talking Cobb County, Cherokee County, North Georgia area is a very desirable area. A lot of growth here. The school systems are fantastic. There's a lot of entertainment and a lot of things to do. Mm-hmm. And then the next step is the price point. If you're priced in that $350 and below area, you've got a hot house. You've got a house that's in high demand. So anything in that range, in that price range and as long as you price it right, you still got to price it right.
Yeah.
And as long as it's in good condition, good or above condition, you've got a hot property.
So let's go one step deeper. So you walk into a house, you get a lead. I want to sell my house, Tom. Mm-hmm. And you walk in and you see a kitchen that is fresh out of the 1980s. Mm-hmm. That house is probably not going to sell as fast.
It may. You got to price it right. So you and I are going to have a conversation about what your goals are, what's your motivation.
Right.
And if your goal is to get as much money out of this property as you possibly can, and you've got flexible time period, we're probably going to talk about doing some work, and you've got the money to invest in a renovation.
Yeah.
We're probably going to talk about doing so. in order to maximize your gain.
So do you see $50,000, $60,000 kitchens as enabling the house to sell for more? And I know this is all very general, and it's all house very specific when you're talking about that. But that's what I hear from clients a lot of times is, well, we're going to sell our house, so we remodeled all of our bathrooms, we updated the carpet, we put in hardwoods now, we remodeled the kitchen, and we redid our driveway. And I'm like, it sounds like you have the perfect house now.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to sell it.
Yeah. Well, that happens. People, they put all this money.
They fix it up to sell it.
And they fall back in love with it. And they stay, which is good.
There's a whole show on that. Love it or list it, right?
Yeah, there is. Yes.
So how often do you have to tell people, look, in order to get top dollar, you're going to have to do this? And what's the return on investment? I've always thought it's just better to sell it as is, because you don't know what somebody else's style is going to be. You might choose this color granite, but the market really likes, the opposite color of granite, or not granite at all. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, we have those conversations daily, and it's a great question. And it's usually the biggest question that people have. Do I have to put money into this? And once again, it comes back to, if you do the renovation work or updating, you're going to attract a larger buyer pool than you would have if you didn't do that. So you just need to understand that if you're trying to attract as many buyers as you possibly can, probably get into a multiple offer situation and maximize your gain on it, you're going to want to do some renovation work to attract that big buyer pool. So the less you have done on your home, the smaller that buyer pool becomes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now,
but when you remodel, though, I feel like that you're not picking out necessarily what you want. You're probably picking out what the mass general market is looking for.
Yeah, it's neutral. Yeah, we're not doing crazy stuff. We're looking out and seeing what the majority of the buyers are demanding, and that's what we're presenting to our sellers as far as how to do these improvements. We're not updating the house for you.
Right.
We're updating it for the mass buyers. I always tell people, I'm like, just think hotel room. Very neutral.
Very neutral. Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So
we talked about locally, 350 houses are moving quickly. What do you see north of that? Let's put it closer to 650 to $1.5 million.
Once again, we're going to talk about micro local markets, right? So you're in Vinings, the Smyrna area, those areas, they can absorb that price point. That's a pretty typical price point in some of those markets.
Absolutely.
So, it may not be an issue. You take that price point and you go into northern Cherokee County, it's going to be slower. You're not going to be able to sell your $750,000 home. Your buyer pool is smaller.
Yeah.
In North Cherokee County, for an example.
You probably have to have land and a pool and
5 acres.
5 acres, yeah.
Have you seen a change with remote work? You hear people moving out of the cities and to the suburbs. Kind of that's the new trend. Has that been able to show yet, or is that kind of
just starting? But man, is it ever. Yeah. So very interesting. We were talking about home styles and what's popular right now. More and more, we're seeing more and more people working out of their homes. So they're wanting that space in a house now, either a basement or an additional room, because they're getting used to working out of the house and they want to have that space. A lot of people have 2 income homes. So you have 2 offices now in the house.
Right.
So we're starting to see that trend. We're also starting to see families come together, and we have multi-generational families under the same roof, which is a whole other dynamic of what is needed in a home. So we are starting to see those patterns.
To some extent, then, that changes the desired floor plan. Casey mentioned, a few years back, and one of the home trends, one of it was open floor plans, as much open space as possible. Well, if you need offices or you need multi-generational rooms, that open floor plan may not be exactly what people are looking for anymore.
Exactly. So we're starting to see that being pulled back a little bit, and we're starting to have the buyers have a desire for those separate rooms. And it really depends on, how you feel about the pandemic too. We're starting to see a lot of buyers that have, they want to have separate rooms in case someone gets quarantined or has it, and be able to, still be able to live and not be locked in a closet, but still have that space too. So we're starting to see those trends as well.
Are you seeing a trend in the demographics of that home buyer? Millennials, as they're aging, they're coming out of the apartment style of life, wanting that single family home? Are you seeing much of that? Or older people, as they, their children go off and they want to either downsize, have more amenities, but less space, anything like that?
Yeah, we're seeing it on a couple different fronts. So the baby boomers, if you will, are retiring and they're getting rid of the big family home. And we're starting to, they want to downsize, or we call it right sizing, because sometimes they're not really downsizing. It's not necessarily always downsizing. Ranch homes, one-story homes, master on mains, very desirable and in high demand for that price point. Baby boomers, we are starting to see them wanting single-family homes. We are starting to see that trend. However, lately, since the pandemic, we're seeing high unemployment with those folks. And so that's kind of put things on pause for them. We're seeing a lot of folks, younger folks, unfortunately, have been hit really hard with the economy that it is right now.
What do you think is going to happen with the low interest rates and the effect going forward? I actually saw a national ad recently. I think it was a 15-year, 1.99%.
Is that crazy?
Now, I don't know how many points you had to buy down to get to that, but to me, that only fuels the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if we get to the point where maybe a year from now we see interest rates that might rise, then people are going to be, we already know we're having like record refis at this point, and that makes sense. That's not a bad thing. How much are interest rates fueling what's happening now in real estate?
A lot. That's a big reason why we have what we have and the demand that we have. So interest rates are a major play in real estate. Absolutely. If you're asking me what the long-term outlook is for rates, I'm only relying on the experts that we consult with.
Right.
This is not my forte, but everybody that we talk to and consult with are basically saying they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And we've almost become addicted to these low rates. We really have. And not really quite sure the economy would sustain any kind of substantial increase. It would be very painful. And the economy would have to be rock solid in order to be able to absorb that. So most of the input that we get is they're not going anywhere significant anytime soon.
That helps with that. It kind of transitions a little bit toward what trends are you seeing in an investment property? Because if you have really low interest rates and you can acquire a lower price home that you then rent out either on Airbnb or you rent out on by the monthly or by the year, you can have a pretty good rate of return on that long term. What trends are you seeing with investment properties right now?
We're seeing a continuous pace with institutional buyers buying single family residential, which is a good thing. If the institutional companies are still buying single family and renting them out, that's usually a good sign for mom and pop folks. And I'm a mom and pop investor, right? That's a great sign. We don't see rents going down anytime soon. However, we do have, we've got a couple things in the economy that we really need to continue to take a look at. And we're going to continue to monitor it. But long term, let's say 5+ years, we don't see rents going down. There's still a lot of demand for rent. So, and I think that's what the institutional folks are taking a look at. They're seeing a long-term play in that single family rental market.
What price point are those rentals at? Do you see them moving at?
Anywhere $250 and below. 3-bedroom, 2-bath house is a great rental. Now, me personally, when I look at rental property, I look at school districts. I want it to be a good school district. I don't like super old homes. I'm not going to buy something from 1950 and have to deal with all the hassles of that. And I'm seeing that same kind of trend with the institutional buyers. So I'm kind of on pace with what the institutional folks are doing. It's harder because I'm competing directly with them. So I got to get to those opportunities first. And so is every other mom and pop investor out there as well. They're trying to get to those opportunities before anybody else.
Yeah. I'm kind of staying in my same little triangle as far as me moving around, but I just thought of something. I don't see We Buy Ugly Houses up on the curbside anymore. Am I just not noticing that, or is that still a thing where people are trying to flip homes in this environment?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're out there. I don't know why the signs are gone. I haven't really noticed, to be honest with you.
There's a couple of corners that just popped in my head and going, you always see those signs on those corners. I haven't seen those as much.
Well, that's kind of a new trend in real estate is the transaction where the real estate agent will buy your home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds great I would assume that there's some things that aren't being necessarily disclosed in that 30-second ad on the radio.
Not really. So this is an interesting topic that we
Okay.
could talk about. There are a number of new technology companies that are entering the market. Obviously, the internet has changed everything. It has for years. This is no new story. But there are a number of these institutional buyers that are going in and they are offering different value propositions with their product. And many of them are doing exactly that. And they're legitimate. We actually have partnered with quite a few of them. We used to kind of fight against them. We're like, who are all these companies coming in? They're taking our market share. We've decided to partner with them because they really do have a solution. And it's not a smoke and mirrors. I mean, they really do have a valid solution for some folks. They're a good match for some folks. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They'll come in, they'll buy your house, they'll buy you your next home, and you can rent it from them for the time being until your home sells, which takes away the issue of being homeless in between or having two homes at the same time. It eliminates that from a seller. So they do have some fairly good solutions. Now, is there a cost to that? Yeah, there's a convenience cost to that. Is it astronomical? Not necessarily. They've made it very economical. These are smart people, you know?
What is the homeowner's risk?
It's a cost. It's a convenience fee.
It's really just the cost.
It really
And
is.
is it a flat fee or is it a percentage?
They're all different. So
okay.
all these different companies, you know, many of them you've already heard of. There's a lot of them that you probably haven't, but they all have a different kind of value pitch, if you will, you know? So, I mean,
and obviously their risk is they bought your house. And so their risk is that they don't sell your house for the price that they think they can get for it. And then on the other side, but they own the house that you're now in. Is there not some issues with that?
there is. There's a little bit of, there's some risk there.
I mean, I'm sure there's contractually they have to sell it to you, I would think.
They do. Yeah, they're not going to mess around with you.
Okay.
I mean, these are large companies that have Wall Street money behind them. They have billions of dollars.
So there's an arbitrage going on there between the two.
Yes.
And so basically, but you don't have the anxiety of, oh my gosh, our house hasn't sold. But unless you have a house around the 350 range, I'm hearing that there's a reason why you should be doing that.
It really comes down to a convenient, once again, the individual seller, their convenience, and what is important to them.
Yeah.
And it's usually a price and time factor.
I mean, we've walked clients through all these scenarios. I have not brought in that option. Honestly, I've looked at them as that's kind of, you've got to probably lose a ton of money in that transaction. But we have clients that sell, and these are older people, sell, and then they don't have anywhere to go for 60 days.
Yeah.
And you can't I could go to Florida for 60 days, I guess, but all your stuff is packed up. That has a cost.
And the anxiety and the stress and so on and so forth. Yeah. And for some people, once again, these are real solutions that do work for them. It really is. It's an interesting time in real estate because of all of these newer companies that are in the market.
I assume those are well-qualified people in those homes too. We probably don't have a whole lot of sketchy, they have to qualify for a mortgage, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The company is not going to buy you your home without knowing that you're going to be able to qualify for a loan.
Exactly.
On the backside. Yeah,
Interesting.
Absolutely. But yeah, these companies are leveraging the fact that they can borrow, they've got all this money. They can borrow money for less expensive than the average person, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And they're leveraging that. So yeah, there's some very legitimate reasons for that. It's kind of interesting. We did a little study on that and what convenience fee the average seller would be comfortable with for that convenience, and it was around $6,000 to $8,000. So if I came to you as a seller and just said, "Hey, listen, you don't have to list the house, you don't have to have a bunch of people going through it, you don't have to fix it up. What would you be willing to give up in your equity for that convenience?" And that number was about $6,000 to $8,000.
Interesting.
Yeah, and guess where all these people are playing? That's exactly the market that these institutions are playing at.
That removes a lot of anxiety about a transition. Certainly if you're older and would want to take your time exiting and take your time getting into the new place as well. That sort of makes sense.
Now, let me put a little caveat on there. Do not go down. I highly recommend, if anybody's interested in this, and this is an interesting thing, don't do it without an agent. There is a way for an agent to be involved with that process, and there are some traps. There are some things that you're going to want to make sure that you have an agent that is advocating for you. Number one is there's more than just one company. The mistake that we see people making is they hear one ad, they call that one company, and then they just work with that one company. Listen, there's dozens of these companies now, so let's play them off of each other. Let's go out to all of them and get offers and lay them all out on the table, compare them, and then we're going to maximize your dollars for you. And we'll let them all know that they're competing against each other. So that's that's one of the reasons why you want to still have an agent involved with that.
Good advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
So going back to investment property trends, we know that institutions are still buying. There's a couple of large ones here in Atlanta that are buying, obviously, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. What do you see as being the strategy now? Is obviously it's income. You buy the property, income, but then how much more upside do we have in these homes? I mean, do we see a 3-bedroom, 2-bath go into a $500,000? Are we on our way to New England prices and Metro Atlanta?
Yeah.
To me, there's got to be some give, but I don't know that there's give in pricing with interest rates as low as they are right now.
Well, historically, if you look backwards, you mentioned it at the opening of the show.
Right.
The house down the street was $40,000.
That's very true.
How much further can we go?
Right.
So historically, we can look at the trend line and it's continuing to trend up. It doesn't stop. There's no plateau. Even with a crisis that we had, the Great Recession. Yeah, that was a tough 6-7 years, no doubt about it. However, if you look at the trend line, it just continues to grow. And there's no reason for us to think that even with all the unrest that's happening currently, that long-term, that's not going to continue.
Second homes.
Yeah.
Lake properties. I feel like everybody I know is buying a house at the lake. I only assume that they've really increased in price as well because of that demand.
Yeah.
Even places that aren't even lakes, they're like ponds, seem to be getting lake prices.
Yeah. I think once again, we're seeing people escaping the city, the congestion. They can work from anywhere. So why not work from the lake? So is it a second home now? Probably temporarily. I do know that we have one of our co-agents that we work with is up in the Blue Ridge mountain area. They're having the best year ever in home purchases.
I could totally see that.
Not people vacating and selling their homes,
right.
Home purchases. Yeah, now that's just one team up in North Georgia, so you'd have to look at it a little more broad scope if you wanted to get a true effect. But he said, it's been very, very active home purchases up in the mountains.
What about townhomes? You drive around, you see a lot of newer built and ones being built, just townhomes everywhere.
Yeah, that trend is on the increase as well. Once again, they're typically a little more economical than a single family on a plot of land, right? So that's one of the reasons why we have that uptick. It's the affordability factor. Now, some of these townhomes, I'm going to see, they're $1 million
different price point on those, yeah.
So
4,000 square feet. Yeah.
So you've got a couple different segments that are happening in that townhouse market. So you've got the economical piece of it, and then you've got just kind of the luxury piece of it as well. The easy living, no maintenance. I don't have to mow my lawn. I don't have to worry about taking care of the outside all that much. So there's two different segments that are occurring.
And 55 plus. I mean, that just goes along with the aging demographics. And I tell clients all the time, so many people say, well, our house is worth probably $450, but we're going to downsize. And I was like, well, you can downsize. Your house might get smaller, but you're probably still going to spend $450 on the home. And especially here in Cobb, closer to the perimeter. And they just kind of look at me like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then they come back, a few months later and they go, you believe that the 55 plus community is $500,000?
I know.
and they're selling the lifestyle. The quality of the home is, they look nice, but I would think the quality of the home is not what you think it is. You're buying the lifestyle. It's like a Sun City kind of purchase almost. Yeah. You're buying for the golf course, the tennis, and the social life, and they barely put the house together.
That's right. And we're starting to see that. And that's kind of a wake-up call. We have those conversations with folks, quite often. They sell the big house, the family house that they've had for years and years. And their mental approach to it is, all right, we're going to sell our $750,000 house, and I'm going to go and get I'm going to pay cash for a $300,000 home. good luck.
Yeah. It's hard to do that. You have to go out. Like
you do.
I used to say you have to go out toward Rockmart, but even Rockmart now is becoming a lot more than it used to be. So I don't know where you go beyond Rockmart. I guess at that point you're in
Alabama.
And then you get closer to one of their cities. Yeah, you get closer to their cities, and they're going up too. So yeah, it's just all going. And then just raw land. I've noticed raw land prices also. So well, let's shift gears a little bit. The last few minutes here, just talk about real estate agents in general. So I see a lot of teams that are forming now. We don't just get one agent anymore. We get a team. So a long time ago, you hire a real estate agent and they put those little flyers out. This is before internet. They put those little flyers out in the little box outside your house. And I remember going up to so many houses and flipping up that little thing and there's no flyers. And I'm like, that real estate agent had one job, put flyers in the box. And yet it was always empty.
That's because all the neighbors went over.
Yeah, that's right. All the neighbors
selling for.
Right. True. That's true. I feel like open houses, the same way. All your neighbors come. But when you're looking for a real estate agent now, what are some tips in finding a good agent, such as yourself?
Experience. Number one is experience. You said that it only has one job is to put those flyers in. Actually, the single agent has got 100 jobs. That's the issue. That's the issue with a single agent. It is the most exhausting job in the world to be a single agent because you are wearing so many different hats and trying to coordinate so many different things throughout the whole process of listing a home, marketing it, negotiating contracts, and then getting that contract once it's signed to the closing table. There's a lot of coordination that is involved with that. And if you're doing that with 3 or 4 different homes, you are busy. That's the formation of teams where you could efficiently get through that whole process efficiently. And you'd have, obviously you have help. You've got a team that's behind you that has specific tasks and things that they are completing throughout that whole process. So one of the advantages one of the things you should look for in an agent is exactly that. Who besides you is involved with this thing to support me?
Correct.
Because if I'm not feeling good one day or I decide to take a weekend off, you still got to take care of your client. So you got to really have a team behind you to be able to support that whole process.
I assume that team probably has somebody that's really focused on internet because there's a million sites you can go to and search for homes right now. And if you go in Realtor.com is one of them. The MLS listings obviously is very popular for the agents to find homes. Then there's other websites. There's Zillow. I mean, you got to make sure that all this is getting posted on all these different sites. Plus, then there's just even my own media feed. I see agents that will list a home and then post it to their social media sites.
Yeah. So the marketing of homes is definitely moved online and off of traditional print.
Yep.
And newspapers, so on and so forth. There are some agents that still do that, which is great. Most everybody does, but it has gotten very large. The big bang for your buck is online presence. So when you do talk to an agent, you need to find out what their online strategy is. And you want much more than them just posting the house on their Facebook page to their 500 friends.
Yeah.
It goes way beyond that. We're talking about paid advertising, different channels, different marketing channels, using your website as an authority portal, if you will, and directing traffic back to a specific landing page for that particular property. So those are the things you want to hear from an agent as far as their marketing strategy. And you already mentioned, do they have someone that takes care of that on their team? And if it's the single agent trying to do all of that in addition to everything else, you got to really just question that. You really do. So we at Townsend Realty Group, we have a marketing person, Jane, right now, and she does all of our marketing. And it is a full-time job doing all of our online marketing for our company and for all of our listings and all of our clients. We do the same thing with buyers too. If we have a buyer out there that's looking for a specific property, we're doing online marketing for that. We're looking for properties. Anybody have this? This is what they're looking for. Boom, boom, boom. And we'll go through the list and she'll do online marketing looking for a home for these buyers. So online stuff is key.
High tech.
Yes. Real estate is moving tech. Absolutely.
I also think you'd want to have an agent that has good negotiation experience too.
And that comes with experience, training. We do a lot of negotiating training that we go through. and just experience. Understand all the little quirkiness and all the traps that can occur in that whole transaction in that period, and really understanding the local market and understanding housing and houses. And
buying a home can be so emotional for a lot of people too.
It is an emotional decision.
It's going through and figuring out what they're looking for. Is this the right place? Do they visualize that? The few spec homes that we've built, I've always interested to see how many people can see the vision of what the house is going to look like, and how many people actually have to see it built before they have any idea.
Yeah.
And it even goes into the furniture. There's like so many homes do staging now, especially higher end homes, because people can't visualize what this is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
We are having to sell a property down in Atlanta, and we ended up having to stage it. And like, these are CEOs and executive suite level people that are buying these type homes, and they don't have a vision of what this home could look like, yet they're visionaries in business. At two different things.
Two different things. So definitely an emotional decision. Residential real estate is definitely an emotional buy, sell. And it goes back to what you were talking about. Do I paint this room? I know this is a pink room. My daughter loved it, but do I really need to? Can't somebody come in here and visualize what they want? No, they can't.
Yeah.
We've got to paint the pink room. I'm sorry.
Well, Tom, thank you for your time. For those who might be interested in working with Tom and the Townsend Realty Group, you can reach them at townrg.com. That's www.townrg.com. Or you can always reach out to us. We'll be happy to connect you. Thanks for your time, Tom.
Thank you. It was great. I enjoyed it.
Matthews and Brad.
Enjoyed it.
Until next time, guys.
Tom, lots of good information. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Thanks. Hopefully it was helpful.
Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.